What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. In this video, I am going to showcase some new macros that I have created for World of Warcraft using a mod called Gnome Sequencer Enhanced. This mod allows you to create extremely powerful macros that can perform most, if not all, of your rotation with a single button. This can be extremely useful for individuals like myself who has a disability, or for people who just want to be lazy. So keep in mind that these macros are created primarily for those who are playing the game at a more casual level, but feel free to use them and alter them as you see fit. If you have further questions about the mod or my macros, I recommend checking out my FAQ video, and if you'd like to learn more about how to play the class in question, you might want to check out my crash course. It can help get you started, and I will provide links to all of these things in the description below. Today we're going to check out the macro that I've created for leveling a Shaman. To do that, we're going to type /GS to open up Gnome Sequencer, and you can see there's one called Shaman Leveling, and that's for, obviously, leveling a Shaman. That's one you're going to use. So we're going to right-click that to check it out. You can see, primarily, under Talents, you're going to be wanting to go for Enhancement, and then you can dip in the Resto after you finish Enhancement, or that's just the build that I'm doing. You can do whatever, but the main thing is that you follow the Enhancement tree. That's what this macro is designed for. So let's take a look at the actual macro itself. As always, target enemy, no harm dead, and start attack. Those are in there. Start attack is very useful. That way you don't actually have to right-click the thing that you're trying to fight. Okay, so if you hold down Shift, it's going to use Lightning Shield. Also, if you look over here, it's going to be using Lightning Shield, hopefully at the beginning of each encounter. When you first target your enemy, it should try and use Lightning Shield, and then it won't try to use it anymore. That's why it's a cast sequence, Lightning Shield, and then Null. It'll only do it once, and that way it's not going to keep trying to recast it all the time and waste all your mana. You don't want that. You just want to try and keep it up. If it falls off, you can hold down Shift, use your macro, and it should reapply Lightning Shield. Obviously, just keep an eye on your mana before you do that. That's kind of the thing about Classic, is you have a lot of cool abilities that you can use, but you don't want to overdo your mana. So that's the idea. For the most part, it works, especially like you target something, you hit the macro, Lightning Shield should pop up. That's before you even begin the encounter, okay? So under the main part of the macro, you can see it will first use Flame Shock. Ideally, that's what you're going to use right away to get that debuff up there. And then it's going to use Storm Strike once you unlock that ability. As you can see, I'm a baby shaman, so I haven't even unlocked that yet, but it's a simple cooldown ability, should be no problem in the macro. And then it's going to use Earth Shock whenever it can. So that's kind of the idea there. There really isn't anything else to go over in the macro itself. It's a very simple macro, but welcome to Classic, you guys. It's a very simple rotation. That's kind of how Classic is. You tend to rely a lot on your melee swings, and besides that, you don't want to overdo it with the mana anyway. So let's talk about what's not in this macro, and I can kind of show you something else. We're not done yet, even though the macro is very straightforward. Now, I didn't put totems in there. I was experimenting with it a lot. I was trying to see what I could do maybe to put totems in, but the thing is, you tend to move around a lot. Okay, you don't want to just put totems down constantly. Even like if I put like a reset equals target or reset equals combat in there, I tried different things like that, and I was just putting my totems down all the time, just completely destroying my mana. So what I decided to do was make a separate lazy macro. If we go under actual macros, this isn't through Gnome Sequencer. This is just a regular old Shaman macro that I made, old-fashioned, old-school style, right? This is Classic. We're going to go old school. So you can see here, it's a totem macro, and this is just a simple cast sequence macro. It's got all of the different macro, or all of the different totems that I intend to use while I'm leveling up. Okay, so things like, Strength of Earth, Searing Totem, Healing Stream, and Wind Fury Totems. Those are the main ones that I feel like I'm going to use from each of the 4 elements. So as you level up, it obviously starts with Strength of Earth. You're going to get that first. You're going to get Searing next. Then you're going to get Healing. And then once you switch to a different target, it'll reset that, so that way you can just recast them all over again. So once you move to a different area, you can just reuse the macro, re-put those down. Or if you want, you could just manage your totems on separate buttons, because you get all kinds of useful totems that you get to use. But point being, there are other options you can do. You can just copy this one. I'm not going to share this one because it's a very easy, simple macro to make. You can make it yourself. But you just start when you go to where you want to grind or wherever you're going to level up. You just hit this macro to use whichever totems you have, and then of course you could switch it up if you want to. But that's kind of how I'm doing it right now. I haven't found really an easier way, but that's kind of it there. So totems are not, unfortunately, totems are not included in the actual macro itself. There just isn't an easy way to do that, obviously. So that's basically it. Obviously, Rock Biter, you're going to put that on a separate button, right? So you can keep that buff on yourself. If you're using a different weapon enhancement, or enchantment, or whatever you want to call it, enhancement was what I like to call it, then you do that. And then of course, Lightning Bolt is not included in the macro either. I use a rank 1 Lightning Bolt. That way it's just for pulling and for conserving my mana. So we'll just go ahead and test all this out here. So I want to hit my totem button to get my 1 totem out there, and then I'm going to use Lightning Bolt to pull this thing towards me, and then I'm just going to hit the macro, puts up my lightning shield, uses flame shock, and then we're just kind of waiting around, right? That's basically what we're doing here, right? So eventually we reapplied. Yeah, there we go. So there, he's dead. Cool, right? Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Okay, so the other thing about this is, and something I might actually test, if you feel like you're using Flame Shock too often, which can happen, right? Because like Flame Shock has a relatively long debuff compared to the actual cooldown. You could do a cast sequence Flame Shock null, right? And that way you'll do just like how this is like lightning shield null. The idea is you'll do cast sequence Flame Shock. That way it'll only do Flame Shock once. For the most part, you're only going to be using 1 Flame Shock before you kill your target, right? So that's something that I will probably do. As a matter of fact, why don't we just do that now? We're just going to do a live edit here. Cast sequence, reset equals target. So if I can type, target, Flame Shock, and then null. Okay, so that way you're not using too many Flame Shocks. Now, I want to make sure that actually went in there okay. Yep. So you see, I always know it's working if there are colors. That means the macro recognizes it. So we're gonna save that, and now we're just hey, I'm going with these as we go. We're doing a lot of classes. Okay, so I'm testing these on the fly. You get to see it firsthand. Okay, so let's go over to this guy. We're gonna go ahead and redrop our totem. We're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna walk up, use Lightning Bolt. There we go. He's coming at us. There we go. Look at that. We used Earth Shock, and we're just kind of spamming away at the macro, because there's only like 2 abilities. There's your Flame Shock. Now it's done, right? So it's not going to do Flame Shock anymore. For me, it's just going to do Earth Shock, and then it'll reapply my Lightning Bolts. So obviously, the thing is, you might be asking, do I spam it? How does it work? You kind of want to spam it a little bit, just because it's a sequence macro. That's kind of how these work. But you don't have to spam it really fast. You've only got like 3 abilities in there, okay? So you're not going to be using a lot of different abilities. You're not going to be like having to go through a big long sequence, and at the same time you want to watch your mana. Now you can see in between fights I'm regenerating mana pretty well, but you want to make sure that you have enough mana to manage the fight. So we've got Flame Shock already, and now we're just chilling here, melee swinging. I'm just kind of lightly spamming the macro. It's going to use Flame Shock, and we kill this target long before Flame Shock even needed to be reapplied. So I definitely think that's better. If you feel like you're not using Flame Shock enough, you could totally, reapply it. As a matter of fact, we're going to do something else. One more live edit. We're going to kill this thing first, see if it's working. Yeah, look at that. Flame Shock's going off. No sweat. Lightly spamming the macro, like I said. But we are running low on mana, so I'm just going to chill for a little bit. Kill that thing. There you go. So, honestly, you're going to be relying mostly on weapon swings. Maybe get the Flame Shock off, then use Earth Shock. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back into the macro real quick. I'm not even going to need to test this because I know it's going to work. We're going to go here, and we're going to add a second modifier. So, cast mod control, and then Flame Shock. So, there you go. Flame Shock is in there like that. Now, what that's going to do is, see, it works. Yep, we got colors. That means it's working. So now, if you need to reapply your Flame Shock, you can just hold down Control. The macro will use Flame Shock again. So that's basically the easiest way I can think of to do it. It's going to work out just fine. Pretty easy macro to make. You can pretty much use it early on. As soon as you unlock Earth Shock, just throw this macro out there. You'll be fine. You got Earth Shock, Lightning Bolt, yeah, you're pretty good. So that's basically it, you guys. Pretty simple macro. Did a little bit of brainstorming and editing here live. Like I said, I've been working on these. I've been playing all kinds of different classes, getting ideas as we go, finding out what I can do. Of course, since it's classic, things are definitely a little bit different. You got to think about, you know, how often you want to use your abilities. So you don't just want to go in spamming it like you would in retail. But yeah, and also they're not going to be perfect. As you can see, Flame Shock doesn't always go off right away. That's just kind of the nature of macros. Sometimes you might use Lightning Shield more often, but you are free to edit these as you see fit. I'm giving you ideas. I'm giving you opportunities to use simple macros. The goal here, as always, is to simplify things, make things easier, not make things the most efficient necessarily. Of course, if we can make it efficient, we will, but these macros can only do so much. You are free to use it as you see fit. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you guys on the next one. As powerful as these macros are, they are far from perfect. So if you want to play the game at a high level and get the most out of your class, I highly recommend that you play the game without these macros. But if you'd like to get started with Gnome Sequencer Enhanced, you can do so by downloading and installing the mod. A link can be found in the description below. Along with it, you will find paste bin links for any macros featured in this video. If you'd like to use them, simply click the link and you'll be taken to a raw paste bin of the macro. Select the entire macro, copy, log into the appropriate class, type /GS to open the Gnome Sequencer screen, click on Import, paste the macro into the available space, make sure that Automatically Create Macro Icon is checked, and click Import. You can now drag the icon to your action bar and the macro is ready to be used. If you followed all the steps correctly, the macro should be working fine. If something isn't working, start over and make sure that you follow all the steps correctly. If you are having further issues, I recommend that you check out the mod page or contact the mod's author for more information. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button. And feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and if you'd like, you can support this channel on Patreon. Links to all of this can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.